We're the Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. If you've got HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault, put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Put the shame to a halt, cause it's not your fault.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Hala. I am here with Sid and Brinley for another episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Thank you so much, UCB, for sponsoring this episode, and let's get into it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Today, we are going to talk about triggers with HS. So I'm here with my two beautiful co-hosts, Mahala and Sid, and let's just jump into it. We know that triggers can be...
What is a trigger?
That's a really good question. So we're going back to the very, very beginning. Mm-hmm. So triggers are something that you could potentially be doing that could start or instigate a flare to happen. So let's say for some people it's exercise, and maybe that's because of the sweat or the friction, or it could be because of the clothing choice that they're wearing, could be because of the fabric, it could be a plethora of different things. So nailing down triggers can be really, really difficult to do. But it is something that is one of the pieces that we have control over with our own HS. So it's something that's important if you do know your triggers or are working on identifying your triggers, that it can really help you take control of what you can in your HS.
Okay.
So
how did you guys learn your triggers?
I feel like you're probably always learning your triggers. At least that's just the journey I'm on. I have went down the food trigger rabbit hole where I probably was triggering myself stress wise, because I'm like, oh my God, really? We can't eat anything, you know? There's so many different diets and fads and people out there putting all this information on the internet. And so I got pretty overwhelmed. So then I kind of just really shifted gears to what triggers can I really try to figure out that I can control. So I try not to sit for too long since I have it on my butt cheeks. Obviously that's just not realistic for me. I probably could never ever work a customer service job again where I have to sit majority of the day. It's out of the cards for me. And I try not to wear jeans every single day. That's just something that friction with the clothes. So just paying attention to what your clothes are made out of. I know I try to stick pretty much to cotton friendly things. But yeah, I think I'm still learning what my triggers are every day.
can you wear jeans except if you wear them more than one day in a row or for a really long time? Because I know personally I can wear jeans if I wear them for half a day and not for multiple days in a row. They won't bother me, but it's if I overdo it and it's too much action, it's a no-go.
Yeah, I wore them yesterday, and by the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, I'm a couple hours off from instant regrets.
Yeah.
And that's why you did not see me wearing them today. I'm like, we're going to do some joggers and some loose pants, and even leggings. Wearing leggings after wearing jeans is still too much. It's too tight. In a way, I have found biker shorts, if I want that compression, if I want that tightness filling that's not too much, you know, biker shorts are the way to go.
Yeah. And I think some people have issues with wearing clothing that's too tight, and some people have issues with wearing clothing that's too loose. Yeah. And I think the loose piece of it is because it creates more friction when you're walking, as opposed to a tight piece of clothing that's going to be hugging your inner thigh. Let's say if there's an extra, basketball shorts, you're going to have extra fabric there that's going to create that friction. But it really depends, and it's not always on the same day does it react the same way either. So you may wear something 2 days in a row and have two completely different reactions, and that has to do with all of the environmental triggers and stress that's around with that.
Yeah, for sure. What are your triggers?
Well, I wanted to talk about one thing that's been very helpful with me and learning my triggers is my sister's a behavior analysis, so she's a scientist essentially.
She's a criminal minds girl.
No, she it's not as cool. I feel like everything is so glorified.
I thought she worked at the BAE.
No,
sorry.
No. She works on just essentially making changes in your behavior. Okay. And it's actually been very helpful with me in HS though, because she's been write it down, and she's made me personally document everything. So if my HS is really bad for a few months, she's have you been writing everything down what you're doing? Because sometimes, like, let's say you think you're eating clean or you're thinking you're exercising a lot, and when you write it down, you're actually not. Like, there's been so many times I'm like, I eat healthy, and then it's like,
I ate healthy last week one
girl,
time.
you had a bag of chips 3 days in a row, and you ate the whole thing, but you had celery, so you thought, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, no, you don't eat healthy, girl, you know, like those little things. So that's been really helpful with identifying, and like even furthermore, it's like write down what you eat, write down what your exercise is, write down what you wore, write down what you did that day, write down your stresses. And I have seen one of my biggest triggers is stress, 100%.
Oh yeah.
And I think what happens with me when I stress, like, it adds to so many other issues that then add to my HS. So like when I'm stressed, I'm more likely to binge eat, so then I'm eating anything. And then now I think I used to think, example, like sweets were a trigger for me. I don't think they necessarily are. It's when I'm stressed, I eat massive amounts of it, and it's really just the stress and just living completely unbalanced life that's causing me to trigger, you know? But I think humidity is a trigger of mine. Once again, I learned the adrenaline thing today, so I'm like, maybe it's really just me excited about vacations. But typically my HS does not do well in humidity. And I do know when I start working out and like high sweat workouts, like where I'm sweating, I usually flare up. Horribly.
Sweat is the worst. I mean, I was set free when somebody told me that this wasn't a sweat gland disease, because I'm like, oh my God, that explains everything. But it's not. And I just found that like my sweat is like not my friend at all. Even when I work out, that's why I used to shower before I would go to like practices and stuff when I was younger. And then I turn around and shower as soon as I got home. But even till this day, it sounds true for me. So I don't want to be extra and shower before I go to the gym. But like, I've even questioned if I have to be that girl at the gym who uses the gym shower. Like, because I itch so bad. I could just feel it affecting my skin. And if I get into that freaking mom squirrel brain as soon as I get back from the gym, to where I can't immediately go to that shower, and next thing you know, I'm helping a kid, I'm doing something, it's like 3 hours pass by, I didn't even get to shower, and now the next day I'm going to have a flare because all that sweat exited, you know, as it should because of the workout, but then it just sat there and just did the most. And now sweat is terrible for me.
But I've had to be very careful with my triggers, with making sure the thing I'm thinking is a trigger and not just a moment in time. So for a while I started thinking exercising was my trigger, and it's not. I can exercise, it's exercises that are making me sweat. So even a lot of the times I can do the same exercise inside with AC, no trigger. If I'm doing it outside and I'm sweating, it's hot, I'm triggering. So that was even important to me, because I got to a point where I was like, just don't exercise. I was probably me just trying not to go to a freaking gym, to be honest, you know. But like actually exercising for the most part doesn't affect me. And even that, if it does, a lot of times it's the clothing I'm wearing, not the exercise.
Yeah,
you know?
We cannot be wearing all that tight ass stuff, you know. Even if I'm going to the gym if you see me have leggings on, it's probably like laundry day. But I have boxers on underneath that are cotton that are going to catch most of that sweat, because nothing is worse than when you have flares on the inner thighs and you're trying to freaking get an exercise in and all you have is this friction and you can't even completely do your exercises. I mean, there's always going to be specific limitations when you go there. There's hardly a day that I go to the gym and I'm like, everything feels great. We're great. Everything's great, you know? But I'm like, I try to do what I can to make it as breezy as I can without going to that limit of like, I just don't need to exercise. I can't, you know, because that's not healthy either. I feel so good when I can get that 45-minute workout in.
And even walking, I think I've learned to just, some things with HS, like, just don't be as extreme. So like walking, to me, I stand, like, if you have HS and are able to walk, do it, you know, like, it's not a, what do they call it, like high,
not high intensity, not high aerobic.
And I think you've mentioned yoga is incredible for the most part.
So yoga is one of the things that we've found that works really, really well for HS, especially because it's low impact. So you're getting, I mean, before I ever did yoga, I was like, oh my God, that's hardly a workout, you guys. And then after I did it and my arms are shaking and my legs are shaking and I'm dripping sweat and I'm just freaking standing in warrior pose. And then I'm like, okay, I take everything back that I said. Please, I'm going to die. I think that it's nice because you can do it to whatever ability you have. But you also can amp it up if you need to. And it's not something that requires a lot of space. You don't always have to leave your house. You can do it on, there's programs that you can use to do it on your TV. You can do it from a chair. So anybody can participate in that. And another really great exercise for us is swimming.
Love it.
I was literally
Yeah.
going to bring out swimming. And I don't know if I should even be saying this because I don't know if it's true, but both chlorine and salt water have seemed to help my HS.
Yes.
Both.
Yeah. So, and we're totally safe going in chlorine and salt water.
Okay, what about the bleach baths? Because everybody feels some type of way, and they really help me. And I'm like, I'm not pouring the whole damn bottle of bleach in here.
No, I think the thing with the bleach baths that can be difficult is because you're trying to go after one specific area on your body. Let's say for you, it's like your butt and your groin, right? But you're still submerging your entire lower half. And so all of that skin is drying out. Not just the portion that you want to be dried out. So all of your legs are getting dried out because that's what bleach.
But be for real, they were already dry. Who was putting fucking lotion on their legs
But I guess
every
it's just-
single day?
I think
do.
HS is so unique to everybody. I guess that's Brinley's point.
I'm proud of you. I'm so proud. Josh be like, "What's lotion?" I'm like, "See, this is why black don't crack." But let me stop talking shit because I don't put it on my legs. They gon' age, baby. They gon' age.
Oh my gosh. But I think I get what you're saying. Like, it can create another problem.
Yeah,
but,
it can. And so that's the only thing with like the bleach baths, I think, and it can be difficult for the rest of your skin because it is really drying. But one of the things that we'll talk about on another episode, but just to drop it here, is product suggestions. So Clean Body Wash, CLN Body Wash, is basically kind of like bleach bath in a bottle. So that may be a really good alternative, especially if you do have extremely dry skin after having a bleach bath, but really like what a bleach bath does for you. Mm-hmm. So something to take into consideration for sure.
Brinley doesn't have a lot of food triggers, which I think is rare for a lot of people with HS, I would say.
I think people tend to think they may have food triggers, but not be sure. And I think food is always a difficult one because I think that for a lot of people, they can be triggers, but the question is, how do you find out if it's a trigger for you?
Yeah.
And I think really the only way to do that is to keep a journal like your sister suggested, especially about the foods that you're eating and then when you're seeing flares. Because the other thing is, HS is unpredictable, right? So we don't know when it's going to rear its ugly head. And is it something you ate yesterday? Is it something you ate 2 days ago? Is it something you ate 5 minutes ago? Who knows? So keeping track of that is really the only way that you can figure out for sure.
Do we have an app for this? Damn.
I think there's going to be one coming, I'm sure, because it's going to be...
Because
it's
I'm
a lot to
sitting here
track.
thinking about, I've tried to do all these things. I've bought the journals. I try to journal on regularly on paper. I try to keep notebooks and pens everywhere. And I guess I'm just like, I just don't want to, or it's just not simple for me. And I have a really big problem with like going back and reading what I wrote. I don't know why. I'm just like, I write it down. It's in my brain forever, you know? But I'm like, I just wish it was more simpler, I guess.
It's work, but it's helped me with a lot of things. And I guess that's why my sister gets paid the big bucks. Because, like, these help. Like, it's one of the best ways to just track stuff. And I liked what Brinley said, because the only way to really see when and if it's affecting you is if you wrote it down.
Yeah.
So even something she's very much taught me is, like, even when my diet does affect my HS, it's when I ate something I usually don't eat. So for most people, your diet's pretty consistent. So like, let's even say you eat like crap. You probably consistently eat like crap. So you can usually even identify that. And you tend to eat within reason the same things. Like, you know, you might do Mexican on Monday or once a week and all these things. So I do feel like it's helpful. And even that, I started to learn how quickly I react from a trigger, which was very helpful for me. So like typically it's a few days to a week after I do the thing. It's not right away at all. Versus some people, it might be the next day.
Yeah.
Like I've heard people with HS that say they can literally eat something the next day. That's not how it works for me. So, but the only reason I know that is because I wrote it down.
Yeah, and I think our minds tend to fool us into thinking like, oh, well, I'll remember. Okay,
Yeah.
I can't remember what my password is on 90% of what I have passwords for, let alone like remember what I ate during a
Yesterday.
day or a week. And I think the other part is that there's an accountability for it, because you might be actually eating something that you're not paying attention to that you're eating that's causing the issue.
And I think educating ourselves about what we're eating also, whether you want to look at it from a trigger lens or not. Like when I started educating myself on inflammatory foods, for instance, like I'll just say dairy, because I know that like whether you're lactose intolerant or not, dairy is just like ick kind of for almost all of us. You know, it causes so much inflammation in the body, and that's just fact. Whether dairy in food is your trigger with HS or not, you're still entering, you know, welcoming inflammation into your body. So I think just getting that nutritional facts helps you make that decision to like, okay, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit.
And the best thing to do with that information is, you know, we're not registered dietitians. We're not nutritionists, right? We're just regular people like living our lives trying to figure out what the hell's going on and how we can help it. So I think the best idea with that information is to go to like a registered dietitian or a nutritionist. Like we work with one with HS Connect. Jillian from Embrace Health Nutrition is the person that we work with, and she's wonderful. So not only does she have HS herself, which makes we love her even more for that. And we're supporting her, but she also understands it on a level that other people don't understand it. She knows like, okay, you really want to figure out what's going on because you want to do the best that you can for, you know, for yourself. So giving that information to someone else to look at, they're going to look at it from a totally different standpoint, and not from a critical, like, oh, damn, this chick eats too many, you know, church's chicken, whatever. But that this could potentially be what your issue is. Yeah. And I think the main thing that happens with people with food is that they instantly come out of the gate and they're like, I'm changing everything.
And literally been there, like thrown everything out of my fridge. Once you watch What the Health, you will literally feel that way.
It's unrealistic though.
It really was. I bought all this food for all this money and asked me how much we ate. Yeah. Or how much I genuinely thought was disgusting. I think we got to get to that part too. Like, sometimes healthy food just, it does not look appealing. I don't want to eat quinoa. Okay, I don't. I'm going to eat the rice and the carbs. I'm gonna.
But also, I think I would actually, I'm even thinking, like, my sister would even be great to just come up, because she's been very great with me with also teaching me it's not that extreme, because when you do extreme behaviors, you can't keep them up, so you don't do it. So even her practice isn't about doing extreme behaviors. It's actually about changing your behavior with one small one and building up to a life that works for you. Oh yeah. Which has been very powerful. So even she has helped me even try to lose weight at one point, but it had nothing to do with HS, but it was even as simple as like, she told me like, I don't want you to say you're not eating sweets. You like sweets, but let's just bring it down to once every other day. You're eating it 2 times a day. You know, let's try to bring it down to once a day to start out with. And it was actually way easier than I thought. But once again, the data, like, I didn't even realize some of the things I was doing that were so easy for me not to do. And it even had me hold myself more accountable. So even she's had me track with HS, like, are you doing the care you could do every day? Are you putting Band-Aids on open lesions that could help you, if that's whatever's for you, you know, to do with your HS? But even that, so much of my tracking was like, oh, I also just half-assed the shit I should do. And it wasn't even like I needed to change my diet. It was like, girl, just put the damn Band-Aid on. Yeah. You know what I mean? But the only way in my mind, I'm like, I put Band-Aids on all the time. No, the fuck I don't. And then that diary tracker, and even something about with writing it down, makes you hold yourself more accountable. So at the end of the day, I'm like, you gonna see that you ain't wear a Band-Aid once, you ain't write that down, you know? So then it was like, girl, let me go ahead and check that off in the morning. And like, it is work. I will say it's work.
It's
but
work,
I think,
and it's work sometimes I don't want to do. I'm just being completely honest.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it though, honestly, because the thing is, if you come into it, you know, half-cocked, and you're going to throw away all of the shit in your kitchen and think you are magically going to turn your children from chicken nugget eaters into broccoli patty eaters, you're not going to do that. And that is an unrealistic expectation. And then you know what happens with that? Stress. And then you know what happens with stress? You've just triggered your HS. Yeah. So I think that's the other thing that we really have to pay attention to, is that sometimes looking so hard for your triggers is also a trigger itself, because it's the stress that you're spending so much time and energy trying to find the thing that may make you triggered. And then that is in and of itself a trigger. So don't go off the deep end with you. If you think that food is a trigger for you, start keeping a journal. We have a diary on hsconnect.org. Under the printables, there's a food and lifestyle diary that you can keep. It's just a simple printed out page. You can just write down the food if you've exercised or whatever on there. We try to make it as easy as possible. Give that information to someone for whom it would be meaningful to figure out. Don't try to take this on yourself because it's really a difficult thing to manage. You can't just scrap everything in your entire way of life and then try like living like a brand new person. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work.
Because it's an unrealistic expectation you're not going to be able to meet. And then you're going to beat yourself up for that. And then you're going to be down on yourself. And that in and of itself, again, is going to cause potentially triggers.
There's no cure for HS,
No.
so we're just trying to manage it.
Yep.
If we're being real, or prevent. You
Yep.
know, do anything preventative and manageable we can.
Yeah, and some people have had great success at identifying their triggers and being able to avoid those, and that is amazing, and I am so incredibly happy for the people who've been able to do that, and I give them kudos because it is not an easy task to do. But also, please keep in mind that what works for one person won't work for another.
At all.
So just because there's an entire group of people who are on carnivore diets and that works for them, that is fantastic. And I'm so glad that they found what works for them. But I don't know if that's going to work for you. So is that something that you're interested in doing? And is that something you can realistically do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we need to keep that realism as part of the picture. Without that, we're sunk. Because even if it isn't, you know, a trigger,
You're
And
going to
we-
stress yourself out.
We know extreme changes
Yes.
to your body or diet are never good for you.
Yep.
So get a personal trainer. They will not tell you we're running 20 miles today. Never. A good personal trainer would
Yeah.
never. That is not good for you, even if you need rapid weight loss. It's not going to work. So I think that's another issue with triggers and the feedback maybe we get from doctors too. Like if you go into a doctor and they're like, lose weight, you're like, all right, let me start myself. But it's not practical. And what's probably going to happen, it's
You're
going
gonna
to
get the surgery and you're gonna
or it's
freaking
gonna make
gain
you
the
bench
weight
eat. So
back.
now you're actually doing a worse trigger. But I think my thing with writing it down is like, what other way can you track your triggers?
That's why I'm like, bro, I need something to like remind me on my phone. That's the one thing that I have. I need an app that tells me, pops up like, hey, it's noon. What have you eaten today?
There's a million though.
You know, no, I mean genuinely for HS people. I want the
Well, you gonna build
inclusivity.
it?
there
You gonna
is
build it?
more.
Maybe?
There's
You
more
You asking
coming.
a lot today, girl. She's asking a lot.
Hey, she wants the world on a platter
On
served
a
to her
platter.
now. I think that there's more coming, and there's definitely an app in the works that you'll be able to track your food on. And I don't know if it'll like pop up and say to you like, "Hey, what have you eaten?" But I think that it will definitely be able to be more stuff in one place for us,
Yeah.
as opposed to kind of everything.
Hmm?
What?
There's apps that already do it. I'm telling
No,
her.
I know, but there is an HS specific app that's coming out.
Okay, dope.
Not
dope.
just for that purpose, but it'll also help. It'll track your
Yeah,
medication.
your boils.
Okay.
Your,
It'll
your
track your abscesses.
Okay.
It'll track your
Yeah.
time of your
Dope.
month, like when you have your menses, and
Dope.
it'll help you determine if you have if hormones are a trigger for you.
Okay.
So there's definitely something coming down the pike for that. But
Okay.
yeah.
See, my expectations are not too high.
Okay.
They're acting this way because I didn't let them eat sandwiches for lunch.
Note
okay?
to self: I need to go back to the makers of said app and double check that it's going to remind them, ask them what they ate today,
I know, you
or
see.
I'm going to have someone very upset on my hands.
So I was like, girl, yeah, she asked for specific things.
No
She
shit.
basically said, make me an app. And she kept trying to say it was HS. I'm like, girl, you want your own app.
And can we change the
I mean,
name to
they can make
Sid's
no
app?
money if it's just my
Sid's
app.
Okay. No, but thank
I'll talk to you, CB. It's fine.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We would love to hear your triggers. If you guys
definitely.
would comment below. Sometimes there's triggers. I learned a trigger today, adrenaline, you know? So sometimes it's just nice to even engage with the comments and see what your triggers are.
Yeah, and definitely. And go on to hsconnect.org, and there's a form that you can use on there, too, to comment, to ask questions, especially about triggers, because they're so across the board. Mechanical stress, who knew that sitting could cause could cause flares,
Yeah.
could be triggers. I mean, it runs the gamut of everything across the board.
Yes. And we also want to make a special shout out to UCB today.
Thank you for hosting and
Yes.
sponsoring our podcast. We appreciate it.
Yes. And tune in again for another episode of Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAS. Hey guys, it's your girl Mahala. Thanks for tuning in to Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVA podcast, and thanks for sponsoring UCB.
We're the Hidradenitis SuppuraDIVAs. If you've got HS, you'll want to meet us. It's not your fault, put the shame to a halt. HS divas know how to have a ball. The Hidradenitis